Most hunters today grab whatever bolt action is sitting on the store shelf. Point and shoot, mass-produced, nothing special. But there was another era, a time when American gun makers were still solving real problems instead of chasing profit margins. 5 rifles from that era did something modern budget guns still cannot touch. A pump gun that shot like a bolt action. A lever gun strong enough for magnum pressures. A semi-automatic light enough to carry all day. These rifles were not killed because they failed in the field. They were killed because they cost too much to build and cut into other product lines. Today we are counting down all 5, the engineering behind them, the history, and exactly why they disappeared. Thank you for clicking on this video. If you love deep-cut firearm history, hit that like button and subscribe to Iron Sight Reviews. Before we get started, let us count them down. Number 5. The Remington 788. When Remington released the 788 in 1967, engineers were only trying to build a budget bolt action that would not break the bank. What they created by accident was a bench rest killer, a rifle that routinely outshot guns costing twice as much money. The mechanical secret was unconventional. Instead of the 2 front-facing locking lugs found on the Model 700, Remington built 9 small locking lugs arranged in 3 parallel banks at the rear of the bolt body. That rear lug layout gave shooters a short, blazing fast 60-degree bolt throw, paired with one of the quickest lock times ever recorded on a mass-production rifle. Combine that with a receiver machined as a heavy, thick-walled cylindrical tube, and you get torsional rigidity that simply refuses to flex under recoil. The result was tight, repeatable groups at 100 yards that should not have been possible at that price point. But the design had an honest weakness. Under full power loads like 308 Winchester and 2250 Remington, that rear lug system allowed slight bolt body compression, which over time led to brass stretching and headspace expansion. The bolt handle itself was attached using low-temperature brazing rather than being forged as one piece, and an aggressive extraction on a sticky case could snap it clean off. It was not a deal-breaker for most owners, but it was a maintenance headache that quietly worked against the rifle's reputation. Remington discontinued the 788 in 1983, and not because it failed. It was killed because it was cannibalizing sales of the more profitable Model 700. Original retail pricing sat well under $100, a fraction of premium bolt guns of that era, and production numbers reached well into the hundreds of thousands before the line was shut down. Today, clean examples routinely sell for several $100s on the used market, proof that shooters never stopped wanting accuracy without the premium price tag. Number 4. The Remington 760 and 7600. The Remington 760, which evolved into the modernized 7600 in 1981, was built for hunters who refused to compromise on follow-up speed. In dense timber, when you are tracking a wounded animal through brush and trees, there is no time to work a bolt handle. You need another round down range in the time it takes to breathe, and Remington engineered the answer using decades of shotgun and autoloader knowledge. The pump slide rode along an internal support tube mounted directly beneath the barrel assembly. This floating barrel system meant the barrel cycled completely free from forearm pressure, a design choice that kept groups tight even when a hunter was moving fast through the woods. The original 760 used 14 small locking lugs that rotated into the barrel extension. When Remington refined it into the 7600, they simplified that down to a cleaner 2-lug design locking directly into hardened steel. Either way, shooters got bolt-action terminal ballistics paired with pump-action cycling speed. Chambered in .30-06 Springfield, 270 Winchester, and .335 Whelen, this rifle put serious power downrange fast, with practical accuracy holding inside 2 inches at 100 yards in good examples. Here is where it stings. The 7600 is heavier than modern pump shotguns and considerably bulkier than a slicked-up bolt gun. Shooters are also limited on where they can mount optics, since the side ejection port and traditional receiver profile do not play well with modern low-mounted scope systems. For a rifle built around speed, it felt slow to adapt to new technology. Official production ceased in 2020, when Remington filed for bankruptcy, closing out a run that spanned nearly 4 decades and hundreds of thousands of rifles. Original pricing landed in the mid-$300 range for most of its production life. Yet in the deep woods, secondary market prices for clean used 7.600s now sit well above their factory retail cost. Hunters still want exactly what this gun delivered. Number 3. The Winchester Model 88. The Winchester Model 88, launched in 1955, came from engineers asking a question most companies never had the courage to ask. What if you took everything fast about a lever gun and grafted it onto the strength of a modern bolt action? The answer should have dominated the market for the next 50 years. Instead, it became the rifle that got away. Winchester recognized that traditional rear-locking lever actions could not handle the chamber pressures of post-World War II cartridges like .308 Winchester. Their solution was pure mechanical innovation. Engineers built a rotating bolt head with 3 massive locking lugs that locked directly into the barrel extension itself, not into the receiver, but straight into the steel of the barrel. This gave the Model 88 the raw strength to run full-power rounds safely. Paired with a short throw lever that cycled the entire trigger assembly in unison with the arm, shooters got the fastest sight picture recovery in its class. Winchester also abandoned the flexible 2-piece stock typical of lever guns and machined a solid 1-piece walnut stock that isolated the free-floating action from barrel strain, giving the rifle a feel closer to Swiss watchmaking than a working brush gun. The feeding system was equally refined, using a flush-fitting detachable 4-round steel box magazine that prevented bullet nose deformation and made Spitzer loading safe. Chambered in .358 Winchester, .284 Winchester, .308 Winchester, and .243 Winchester, the 88 brought long-range accuracy to brush hunting, holding groups under 2 inches at 100 yards in good rifles, honest performance well out to 200 yards. Manufacturing changes after 1963 hurt the rifle badly. The shift from hand-cut checkering to machine-impressed basket weave patterns made it feel like the gun was losing its soul, and those intricate internal linkages were expensive to fabricate and maintain. By 1973, Winchester discontinued the platform after roughly 285,000 units, original pricing having started around $150. The rifle was never wrong. The market simply moved faster than Winchester could adapt. Number 2. The Savage Model 99. The Savage Model 99, introduced in 1899 by Arthur Savage himself, did not just refine lever action design, it rewrote the rulebook for what a repeating rifle could be. Before the 99, every lever gun on the market shared the same architecture: a tubular magazine underneath the barrel, an exposed external hammer on top, and a receiver that ejected spent brass straight up into the shooter's face. That layout came with brutal ballistic limitations. Only round-nosed or flat-tipped bullets could be loaded safely, because pointed Spitzer rounds would rest against the primer of the cartridge in front of it, and one hard recoil impulse could set off a chain detonation inside the magazine tube. Top ejection also made mounting an optical sight nearly impossible. Lever guns were fast, but ballistically neutered. Savage solved every one of those problems at once. He engineered a hammerless internal mechanism sealed inside a solid steel side-ejecting receiver, and the true genius was the rotary magazine, a spring-loaded spool with an internal follower that physically isolated each loaded round. By keeping bullet tips away from adjacent primers, the 99 liberated the lever gun. Suddenly, hunters could fire aerodynamic Spitzer bullets at high velocity, group tight out past 200 yards, and finally shoot flat with a lever action. Over a production run stretching from 1899 to 1998, the Model 99 proved itself across continents. The .253,000 Savage was the first commercial rifle cartridge to break 3,000 feet per second, and the .300 Savage became a legend in its own right. Hunters trusted this rifle through wars, depressions, and countless seasons afield, with total production exceeding 1 million rifles. What stopped it cold was cost. That rotary spool required complex multi-axis machining, and the solid forged receiver demanded precision hand fitting that grew more expensive every year. When labor costs climbed and manufacturers pivoted towards stripped-down push-feed bolt guns, Remington and Winchester could churn out simple tube receivers by the thousands. Savage simply could not compete on price, original retail pricing having climbed past $200 by its final years, and the line was finally closed in 1998. Number 1. The Ruger Model 44, Carbine and Deerfield Carbine. Bill Ruger launched the Model 44 Carbine, originally trade-named the Deerstalker, in 1961. It was a semi-automatic, chambered in .44 Remington Magnum, a handgun cartridge, yes, but one with serious stopping power at close range. The rifle weighed just 5 3/4 pounds with an overall length of 36 3/4 inches. It ran on a short-stroke gas piston driving a rotating bolt, fed from an internal 4-round tubular magazine. The thing moved like a rifle half its size. Compare that to everything else on this list. The Savage 99 is a manual repeater, fast, but you are still working a lever by hand. The Winchester 88 is quicker but heavier and bulkier moving through brush. The Remington 7600 gives pump speed, but weighs noticeably more and handles poorly in tight timber. The 788 is remarkably accurate, but it is a single-shot proposition between trigger pulls. The Ruger 44 gave hunters true semi-automatic fire, meaning the follow-up shot was already halfway down range before the shoulder had even absorbed the first recoil impulse. In dense timber hunting, where every second counts, that is simply unbeatable. The original Model 44 was retired in 1985 because manufacturing tooling costs had outpaced profit margins. But Ruger was not finished. In the year 2000, the concept returned as the Deerfield Carbine Model 99/44, a full mechanical overhaul. Engineers ditched the internal tube magazine for a flush-fitting 4-round detachable rotary magazine modeled on the 1022 design, and sourced an open-top receiver derived from the M1 Carbine operating system. Felt recoil stayed negligible thanks to that gas piston bleeding energy gradually. The Deerfield was discontinued in 2006, years before straight-wall cartridge hunting zones expanded across Midwestern states between 2010 and 2020, finally making .44 Magnum legal for deer hunting in regions once locked to shotguns only. Original retail pricing sat around $500, with total production numbering only in the tens of thousands, making surviving examples genuinely scarce today. Ruger, it turns out, was simply about a decade ahead of the market it was built for. 5 rifles, 5 completely different engineering solutions to problems modern push-feed bolt actions still have not solved. The 788 proved that rear lug design could deliver bench rest accuracy at half the price. The 7600 showed pump action speed was unstoppable in the hands of a brush hunter. The 88 grafted bolt action strength onto lever gun quickness. The 99 solved a century of lever gun ballistic limits with a rotary spool. And the Deerfield Carbine delivered semi-automatic power in a package light enough to carry all day. None of these rifles failed in the field. They were killed by profit margins. And today, the technology to bring them back finally exists. If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit that like button and subscribe to Iron Sight Reviews for more firearm history. Watch your 6. I am out.